You're listening to Business Talk Radio, where we take business to the next level.
Rapping with Dr. Jacalyn connects you with experts from all over the world to help you take charge of your career, your business, and your life. Rap along with us. Visit drjacalyn.com to learn how to become a guest or a sponsor. And now, the doctor is in.
Hello and happy Friday. Welcome to Rapping with Dr. Jacalyn. This is a brand new show, our first episode. Fashion, fitness, travel, and leisure, some of my favorite topics. I'm your host and executive producer, Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck, and I'm a certified life, career, meditation, and yoga coach. And I am so honored and so thrilled to have my co-host with me today. She is a wonderful person, so kind, so authentic and genuine, and so accomplished. Let's bring out Diann Floyd Boehm. Hi, Diann.
Hi, it's great to see you. Thank you for the introduction. You're so kind.
Well, it's all true. You're looking quite lovely today, I might add.
Well, it's fashion.
I know.
It's better. Look the part, right?
I am so thrilled about this. You know, I was thinking about the shows that we have on this platform, and I thought, there's something missing. What is it? What's missing? And I thought, this is it: fashion, fitness, travel, and leisure. And so I thought of you and how well-traveled you are, and all the places you've lived, living in Dubai, and all the people that you're always introducing me to that just are so cool. So I thought, let's do this show together.
Well, thank you. It's so exciting. And I love meeting people around the world. So, yay.
Yeah. You know, it's interesting just talking about that. So today my phone rang and there was a number I didn't know, and it said Paris, France. And I thought, oh my gosh, it's our guest for today. So we actually have a really cool guest who's joining us from Paris. He's not backstage yet, but hopefully he'll be here soon. But the point is that we can just connect with people so easily now, whereas it seemed before the pandemic, at least to me, that it was more difficult to connect with people. But maybe that's not been your experience.
No, I think that's one thing the whole world has experienced together, and the frustrations and the scariness of it all, that people weren't ready to get back out into the world. Does that make sense? We wanted to protect our family and do what we needed to do just to have our safe cave, so to speak. And so it's now people are just like, yay, I want to see people and meet people. And now we have this lovely guest and your lovely show. And I really want to, you just do so many amazing shows. And I promise you, audience, you didn't pay me to say that. I'm just blown away. Like, you're announcing a new show. And I'm like, what?
Well, thank you, Diann. And as you know, we started this platform in August last year. So I left my corporate job in March the 6th last year and had no experience doing anything like this. And now we have 11 shows that I am producing, hosting, the broadcast engineer. It's just really cool. And I have to say thank you to Chris Roberts, who is in New York. He is the head broadcast engineer at Business Talk Radio, and he's the one who trained me. So, but our guest is here, and I'm really thrilled because this person is so accomplished. I mean, when we read the bio, it's just like, we're going to have him on here for 3 days.
And other shows. There's so many layers to him.
Yes. So he's joining us from Paris, and I see that he has a special guest zone with him. Let's bring out Marcellous L. Jones. Hello.
Oh,
hi. How are you?
We are fantastic. How are you?
I'm very, very well. I'm a bit flustered here. Thank goodness that the interview is taking place at this time. That's it. So because they're doing a lot of construction work next door, and it drives her crazy, but they've left for the evening as it's 6 p.m. So we're good.
Good. Well, it's such an honor to have you with us. And as we were just saying, you're so accomplished, and I don't even know where to start. But let's start out with your friend. Can you introduce your friend there?
Well, this is my little girl, Phaedra Louisa Catarina Jones Grimaldi de Monde La Salle. I adopted her when she was 8.5 months old. Oh, and she did television. She co-started my television show with me 5 of the 8 years that I was on the air with that show. And when I retired from television, she continued to work in theater in Antwerp, Belgium, at the
Wow.
EWT
Oh
Theater.
my gosh, two very seasoned people here. Oh, 2 seasons. Yes, so I'll admit, I love it. But I'm sure you spend so much time together. It almost seems like, person, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, she is my little baby, and she goes on summer vacation camp, and she has her own social circle of friends that is completely independent of me. Um, no, when I say that, I'm absolutely serious. She has so many friends and people who love and adore her all over Europe.
Wonderful.
And she literally has friends I've never met before. And I love it. I don't get jealous, so I mean, I love it.
Guess what? She's a natural in the camera. Look at that.
Yeah.
Oh
Beautiful.
yeah, she'll be here. I'm gonna try to put her down and get her to go and play with her toys, but I'm sure she'll be back because she likes to. Oh no, she's not gonna go anywhere. She's just gonna sit here. So you'll see her little head
Yay.
popping up. So I'm very happy to be here with you, ladies. Thank you for inviting me.
Well, it's our pleasure. And I thought we could start out by spotlighting you. And then obviously there's a lot that you've accomplished, and we want to get to that. This is the Fashion, Fitness, Travel, and Leisure Show. So let's start off with your background in fashion. So you're a fashion critic, you're a TV host, you've done so much. Where did this all start for you for your journey?
Well, the very first thing I ever recall about fashion was when my very best and closest friend with whom I grew up with, Monica Caesar, she was telling me about the fall, winter colors at the Limited many, many years ago, as you can imagine. And I'd never heard of that before. And then when I went away to university, I became a director of fashion shows at my school, and which was a really big thing because this is something that was sponsored by the SGA, and in the place where it was held, seated 3,500 people. And so I was bringing again like the trunk collections. I was working with local designers, of course, but I was also working with other trunk collections from the likes of Calvin Klein and Ralph Lauren and Tommy Hilfiger. I came to Europe.
Wow.
I completed a master's degree at Middlebury College, but at the Paris campus. I wrote a master's thesis on the development of the modeling industry since the 1950s, but of course I had to go back to Candy Jones and the Hatbox Girls of the 1920s. And then I started working with the agencies, the modeling agencies, and then I became a scout because I was the world's worst booker, but I did have a good eye for talent. I went on and ended up working with the designers some years after that as his assistant, and I had all of these fancy degrees from many very prestigious private schools, and I ended up cleaning the toilet, sweeping the floor, taking out the trash, making coffee, delivering the invitations for the haute couture shows to the hotel to the likes of Susie Menkes and Anna Wintour and Andre Leon Talley. I figured at that particular time it was where, for whatever reason, the universe had fixed me. That is where I needed to be. And I trained under Philippe Angelotti, a very prominent PR agent and communications agent in Europe, and I learned so much that served me later on. I co-founded, which has now become the 5th largest fashion week in Europe. But before that, of course, I had the television show, and I was a fashion critic. And every week in my TV show, you would have the likes of Jean-Paul Gaultier, Karl Lagerfeld, Kenzo Takada. Kenzo actually made this for me himself.
Wow.
And other people who became good friends and for whom I have a lot of respect, like Donatella Versace, etc., etc. And the question came up yesterday about my education, what led me into fashion. And I told people that, no, I never actually studied fashion formally. My last degree work was at the Sorbonne. I completed the PhD work at the Sorbonne, and I am a specialist on the National Missile Defense Program, which destroys intercontinental ballistic range missiles, which have been armed with chemical, nuclear, and biological warheads. And I do lots of charity because I think it's important. And that's it. That's a lot.
Oh my gosh.
I told you it was layering.
There was a
Alone.
lot there.
What are you
There's a
doing in
lot.
your free time?
Oh my God. Okay, I'm going to. I am obsessed with tennis. I am a huge Rafael Nadal fan.
I am too.
Um, I'm just in awe of him. And in my free time, I try not to have too much free time because I have a guilty pleasure, which is like watching soap opera. So I'm a Days of Our Lives fan and Young and the Restless and The Bold and the Beautiful. But like on Saturdays, I host a tutorial session because I am a professor of sociology at the Sorbonne in Paris, and my courses are taught in English. But for some of my students who are not on the level of the other students, because some of them have had benefits from coming from families in stronger socioeconomic backgrounds, and they've had private tutors, but all of the students have not had that advantage. And so what I do on my Saturday evenings, I host a free tutorial session in English for my students. And this is a gift from the heart. Anyone can come. And students from other schools, if they have friends, they are too more than welcome to come and join the gang. I try to have like amazing surprises for them. Like in January, I had Mrs. Dalmira Cesar on the program.
Wow.
She was the director of human resources for President Joe Biden. And so I brought her in as a special treat and a surprise because of the 100 students I have 93 young women from all socioeconomic backgrounds, from all different walks of life, young women who are coming from Ecuador, from Peru to study here in Paris. And for me, I wanted her to be able to explain to everyone what it means to be a woman in a place of privilege, a woman in a place of power, and a woman who is giving back opportunities. And the really special treat for them is that this Mrs. Caesar is also African American, and she grew up in a town that was partially segregated, even in the 80s. And we both came from the same place. That's how we actually know each other, because everyone was like, when did she confirm? I said, oh, well, she confirmed she'll be here 2 hours after the inauguration. We chatted and exchanged. She confirmed. How do you know her? And she's like a sister to me. And I felt that it was really important for people to understand that. I always tell people the wonderful thing about the United States of America is, in spite of what anyone tells you, through hard work, dedication, and education, you can always grow up to become the person who you feel you deserve to become. And that's the lesson that I took away, because I grew up in a place that was partially segregated. And I remember going to the doctor's offices in the 80s and there would be a waiting room for Black people and a waiting room for white people, or should I say a waiting room for white people and Black people. We would need to go into a separate room. I know what it's like to have one of my favorite teachers look me in the eye and tell me, you can't do this because you're Black. And, and for me, I just decided that I wanted to have a destiny that was far more exceptional than anything that anyone could ever have imagined. I wanted what I do in life. First of all, I do these things for myself. And there's a lot of stuff, that experience that I have had, that I don't like talking about. But I realized that I don't have the luxury of not speaking out on social issues, because I am in a place of privilege at this time in my life. I am in a place where I have influence and I have contacts, and it's my responsibility to be able to use those. I use them responsibly. I use them to help children who are suffering from pediatric heart disease in Poland. I use my influence to help children in Serbia who suffer from pediatric cancer. So that is the responsibility of privilege. And I'm sure you've all heard that when one has great privilege or power, it also comes with great responsibility, great expectations, and those things should be demanded of all of us.
Oh my goodness. I
So
just
beautiful.
So amazing. And I know you are an award-winning humanitarian, and thank you for all of your service and for giving back and helping people over and over again. It's just, I love what you said about privilege and giving back. There is a responsibility to do that. And so you're doing it enough, I think, for, I don't even know how many people, but so Diann, we have to take a break. Anything you want to just share before we go?
Oh, I want to come back and touch on how you really have such a beautiful spirit, and I'm so glad that you realize it and you're using your gifts and doing great things.
Absolutely.
I shall be happy to respond to all of your questions.
Excellent. Before we go to break, I just want to say hello to Mohammed Shorfi, Brad Canal, Shushant Kumar, Rachel Boehm, Diann's family daughter, John Peters, Paula Mund, and Eddie Manu. So thank you for watching. We are live streaming on social media and Business Talk Radio. Please stay with us. We will be right back.
Meet the modern learner. Like most of us, the modern learner is short on time, on the go, and wants to learn on their terms and device of choice. The key is to meet them whenever and wherever they may be. The solution? Best-in-class content served up by the Engagement mobile learning platform, where the modern learner is at the center of the learning experience. For example, they can receive a text message that alerts them to a new learning module. They simply tap, watch, read and engage, or play a fun learning game. We transform your content into modules that are timely, accurate, academically rigorous, yet engaging and robust. Personality motivators are blended with modern adult learning principles to make it faster and more natural to absorb the content and have fun while learning. Our cutting-edge platform offers something for everyone. It can be an immersive experience where learners explore and engage based on what's relevant to them in that moment, or they can follow a set curriculum, earning badges and tracking points toward a credit or goal, or they can dive deeper into high-value professional content relating to their topic of interest. It's binge learning at its best. All this, along with an entire portfolio of real-time usable data and KPIs for stakeholders. Imagine, share up-to-the-minute news, enhance current curriculum, build knowledge banks, drive sales, and foster community in the push of a button. To learn more or see a demo, please contact support@engagement.com.
Located at 121 Haddon Avenue in Westmont, New Jersey, is Margie Cedrone, artisan jeweler. Margie's been in business for more than 30 years. She works with her clients to create custom pieces of jewelry to reflect their personality and help them make their own bold statement. Starting in the renowned Jewelers Row in Center City, Philadelphia in 1988, Margie works directly with her clients to develop one-of-a-kind pieces such as necklaces, engagement rings, wedding bands, unique watches and tennis bracelets, as well as a myriad of rings and earrings for everyone in your family. She also has worked directly with Dr. Jacalyn over the years, creating unique pieces of jewelry to reflect her personality. She does pearl stringing and repairs on site at 121 Haddon Avenue. Call or text Margie at 215-384-7155. Margie Cedrone Jewelry is open by appointment only. Make your own bold statement.
You're listening to Business Talk Radio, where we take business to the next level.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Rapping with Dr. Jacalyn. This is our first show, Fashion, Fitness, Travel, and Leisure. I am accompanied by my co-host and friend, Diann Floyd Boehm, and our superstar, incredible human being, so accomplished, giving back so much to the world, Marcellous L. Jones, fashion critic, TV host. Thank you again for being here.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
So, Diann, before the break, you mentioned that you wanted to dig into something. And we do have a comment, by the way, from Mitchell G. Very much. So, thank you so much for watching, Mitchell. Great panel. We appreciate you. Diann, over to you.
First, I just want to share that I really picked up on how you stated you didn't study fashion, but look where you've come. And I think for the audience, that's so inspiring because you show obviously things that you've gone through in your journey in life, but you've never let anything stop you to become the person that you know you were meant to be. And I just really wanted to commend you on that because we all have a journey and we don't really understand sometimes why we have to go through what we go through. And thank you for being so positive. But you started your own magazine at one point, right?
I did. Yes, I did. It was the fashioninsider.com magazine. And in fact, when I was doing the television show, my television show was consumed with menswear and celebrities. So, like after the fashion shows and in between fashion shows and stuff, we would always catch up to major celebrities like Mila Jovovich and John Malkovich, Janet Jackson, Helen Mirren, Victoria Beckham, and Elton John, and they were also very generous with their time with me. And I realized that I had an opportunity, but there was something that was missing in what I wanted to do. We only have fashion week so many weeks out of the year, and I knew there was so much more in the industry that needed to be covered, discovered, and shared with the world. So what I did, I created the magazine. After I started trying to create the TV show, but the magazine was being published about a year and a half before the actual television show began broadcasting in 2008. So what I did was I wanted to use that as a tool to be able to cover more than just the menswear. So we were doing the menswear, the women's wear, the haute couture, the jewelry. I wrote an encyclopedia on the world's greatest supermodels of all time, going back to the original supermodel, 1940s Dorian Lee and her sister Susie Parker Lee. They were the fire and ice girls for Revlon. Dovina.
Wow.
Yeah, and there's just so much history and culture and art that's involved with fashion. So I wanted to create another medium, which would also give others an opportunity to be able to spread their wings and to get noticed. Because the way it works is, in the industry, when you are designing, you want to be noticed, you needed to have a press following, right? And so we would go and write articles for very talented young designers, go and give them advice because I am a critic, and we would tell them this is what you need to do to improve your collection, regardless if it was from a point of view from a production, aesthetics, or in terms of messaging. And so I would literally travel around Europe. I used to spend 30 weeks out of the year traveling. I would see more than 500 fashion shows, presentations, and collections per year. I would receive more than 500 emails on a daily basis, and I went through every one of those emails myself. My work wasn't just limited to Paris, London, and Milan and Toronto, but there was the New York aspect, but because I'm not a fan of New York, I always refused to go there. So our production team from Toronto would go to New York, and I would stay in Europe. I would go to Brazil, Portugal, Spain, Russia, Belarus, the Ukraine, Poland, Azerbaijan, Cyprus, Greece,
Wow.
and then finally, and the Netherlands, just to cover fashion. There was this one designer, because we were all about giving opportunities. I was traveling, and I can't remember in which country I was in, but I was traveling, and I was invited. I learned, one of my friends contacted me and said, "Oh, did you know there was a Romanian designer who showed during the Men's Fair in Paris, and he was the first designer from Romania to actually show in Paris. And I said, no, I was unaware of it. So I went through the process of tracking this designer down through the Romanian embassy in Paris and told them what we were, what we do, and we wanted to put him in my television show. So his PR, they invited me to come to go to Bucharest, Romania, because they were going to redo the show there. And so I said, sure, why not? I've never gone to Romania before. So I counseled I think I counseled Paris Fashion Week. And I went to Romania to support this designer. And so that's what we were doing. We were just always looking for ways to give opportunities to young designers and give them their first written critiques and written reviews, and giving them that support that they definitely needed to do well in the industries.
That's incredible. Absolutely incredible. And you named so many fabulous places, and I've actually been to many of those places. So, though I do still need to go to Brazil.
Travel is wonderful. I recommend it to everyone.
The question I have for you is, so for people out there who love fashion, right? They love to follow the designers. Is the industry and is the work as glamorous as it appears to be to an outsider, to a viewer?
Good question.
No. No.
That's not.
What people have to understand is, the image of the fashion industry was really pushed to its apogee in the late 80s and early 90s, during the era of the supermodel, during the era of the super photographers, during the era of the super hairdressers and the super designers like John Galliano and Alexander McQueen and Gianfranco Ferré and Gianni Versace. So it was, it was in the Terry Muglers, of course. You can't talk about fashions without talking about Terry Mugler in that. But the thing is, what I always tell people is fashion is the one industry that pretty much takes everything away from you, and it gives you very little in return. So you have to be aware of that. You have to be prepared for that, because it is an industry that will completely empty you out like a lemon, like a pressed lemon. This is the state that you will be in. And so you have to set up systems and protections all around you. In terms of the glamour, the fashion week, the fashion shows, the presentation, those are the elements of the glamour, the magazine work. But it takes a lot of work. People work on those shows for 6 months. There's 6 months of research. There's 6 months of designing, 6 months of fabric research, 6 months of putting a collection together. And let me just give you an example. The haute couture is my favorite part of the industry, I have to say. And what people do not realize is that the haute couture in our industry is a dress. Meaning 20 something years ago, a simple basic black skirt in Chanel haute couture would cost about $10,000, right? And that's with no accoutrements, no sequins, no embroideries. And it takes about a little embroidery about this size right here, right? That can take 3 weeks to 2 months to create, and it depends on the elements that are going in it. So there is a lot of hard work, a lot of handicrafts, a lot of sustainable savoir-faire that is being transmitted from one generation to the next in order for these things to even exist. So there is glamour that you see in the magazines. There is glamour that you see on the catwalk and on television. But that was my job. That's our job, to make it look glamorous, to hide all of the really difficult things. But I have to tell you, you have so many people who dedicate everything to themselves in it. And it's a hard industry. It's a very hard industry.
Thank you for sharing all of that. My background was I was in the meetings and events industry for 18 years. And so we'd have these huge conferences we put together for our clients, and we'd have travel staff, and I'd be walking around like this, like the whole time. And I get to my room and I'm like, I am exhausted. And so I can relate to what you're saying. It's literally exhausting putting on a huge event like that. Mm-hmm. So thank you for sharing that, because I'm sure there are people out there wondering, because, you see on television, you see in the movies, you see in the magazines, and everything looks just so easy and so glamorous. So
Right. And I remember the supermodel days. So I used to live in Dubai, and you would do a lot of incredible things there. And I actually have one couture by, you might know the designer Ezra. He's one of the top 10 in Dubai. Incredible. And it was a long gown for the oil ball. And he let me watch sometimes the women sewing everything, because I
in the Italian.
Yes, and I think that's what I really I understand why you love couture so much, because it's such an art, and just getting everything designed for that particular person is an industry all in itself. And so it takes a lot. And then, of course, the runway, just the girls and guys walking back there are just constantly changing, and no one understands what's going on backstage until because so I know where you're coming from. But I'm amazed that at the same time, like, did you ever do runway? Because you're absolutely dynamite handsome.
very true, very true.
No, never did runway. Too short to do runway. That was never an ambition of mine. I actually never intended to actually host a television show on fashion. I knew that I wanted a television show, but I did not intend on being the host. The reason that I ended up being the host of the Men's Fashion Insider program is because to do a program like that, I was content to be executive producer and making everything happen from behind the scenes, handling the relationships with the fashion houses and the PR, setting everything up. But we needed to have a designer we needed to have a host who could actually host the show, who had an encyclopedic level of knowledge of the fashion industry, who had an eye for detail and attention. And honestly, at that time, we simply did not have the budget for it, because it was a small program in the very beginning. They wanted to give us a shot before they started really putting money in it. And so we had to have a host, and that's how I got the job, I suppose. I just fell between the cracks.
But that's what's so much fun about life and the journey, is if you're willing to step through the door, so many things can happen. And look where it's taken you, and you're so successful. So yay.
Yay. It's by the way, just for folks who are on Business Talk Radio out in Radio Land who are listening, I just want to give your contact information. So it looks like the best way for people to reach out to you is on social media. Is that correct?
Yes. And
okay.
I do respond to everyone. I used to give up my telephone number, because I'm like, well, if you have my number, you have a reason. But then came the age of deregulation of telemarketers. So
Yeah.
All those spam calls.
Your telephone number. So no.
Right.
That's
You're
great.
such a giving human being. So I don't know if you can see it. I'm real into vintage. You see that really well? Yeah. So this is from the 1940s. And so I'm curious to see what you think about fashion and vintage. Do you still think it has a place in the world?
Oh, definitely. We're in an era now where everyone is talking about sustainability in fashion, and one of the things that we talk about is reinstating the life to pieces. But the thing is, if you were you to go back in time to the greatest designers, in my opinion, who were not even on the catwalk, right? Like Adrian, the costume designer Adrian, who was the designer of choice for the legendary Joan Crawford, right? And then we had Edith Head, who also worked with Crawford, but more so Betty Davis. If you go and find some of those pieces that they did back then, those pieces still stand the test of time. The quality was there. That quality still exists. In fact, Azzedine Alaïa, Azzedine Alaïa was a huge fan of Adrian, and everyone knows that Azzedine Alaïa, he was a master of draping. He was a master of the structural suits. His iconic images from the 80s and early 90s starring Grace Jones, are just absolutely amazing. And he collected so many pieces from Adrian that he was able to do an exhibition here in Paris. And I was at the exhibition after he had passed, and Naomi Campbell showed up for it because he was like a father to her, and Cindy Crawford showed up with her daughter, Kaya Gerber, and everyone is like walking through these beautiful clothes, and we're comparing the work of Adrian from the 1940s and 1950s, and we're looking at the work of Azzedine Alaya, and we can see that this is what inspired Alaya to his own level of greatness. So there was sustainability in that just through inspiration alone. And so when we talk about vintage, I have a friend in Belgium by the name of Brian Llewellyn Turner Pearsons. Brian, he goes out and he's created a wonderful business for himself on Vinted. And what he does is he collects vintage pieces from Gianfranco Ferrero, from Versace, from Dolce & Gabbana, from Calvin Klein. And he is literally putting these pieces in the hands of people who will have an appreciation for it. But the best part about this appreciation is it will grow, because when they really understand how long this has lasted and how long this will last, as they're able to pass these rare pieces down, there's value in that, there's sustainability, and vintage will always be around.
Thank you. I agree. And it is amazing, the quality of vintage and fashion, and how you can bring that together with some modern pieces today and so forth. So what's your favorite
Diann,
thing?
Sorry, we have to go to commercial break.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll hold that question.
Just hold that
I will
question.
be here waiting when you get back.
All right, we'll be right back. Stay with us. Thanks.
Thank you.
Hello, boys and girls, and welcome to Story Garden. Your host, Diann Boehm. I'm so happy to have you here today.
Diann Floyd Boehm tells wonderful stories that warm the heart, spark the imagination, and unite people and families across generations. For children, Diann's Harry the Camel connects with all of us who've ever wondered how different our lives might have been if only we'd been born something better, like a wonderful horse instead of an ordinary camel. In the end, we all learn along with Harry that there's nothing better than just being yourself. Diann's Little Girl in the Moon looks down on earthbound children and wonders if they know she's just like them. A story of love, home, and the bond between mother and daughter, its powerful theme that we're each of us different yet all of us the same plants a seed in children that promises to blossom within a loving and trusting grown-up. Diann's new biography, Rise, recounts the experiences of her grandmother, Ruby, to reveal the hidden strength of the human spirit. Ruby's story inspires all of us to become the best versions of ourselves. You'll find all of Diann's delightful books and much more at DiannFloydBoehm.com. Visit DiannFloydBoehm.com. That's DiannFloydBoehm.com.
Ladies and gentlemen, here it is, the most listened to radio show on the planet. Even the other stations are tuned in too.
You're listening to Business Talk Radio, where we take business to the next level.
Well, It's all about fashion today, which is so exciting. We're here on Rapping with Dr. Jacalyn. I'm with my co-host, Diann Floyd Boehm, and with our superstar guest, who is just a plethora of information, Marcellous L. Jones, fashion critic and TV host. So I do have a question for you, something that you spoke about with the small material. So I was obsessed with couture for many, many years. And I have my clothing from the 90s, Armani, Chanel, all of it is still in fantastic condition. Like I just bought it yesterday and I bought it in the 90s. So,
so you're sitting on a fortune.
I am. Yes, there's something to be said about that. And I'm wondering what your opinion is that we've been in a lockdown around the world and we're used to being casual. Like I don't have any shoes on right now. I'm in a dress, but I have no shoes on. So how will we reemerge? Will we reemerge like we want to get all dressed up, or we're just going to be kind of hanging out in our sweats?
You know, on Monday nights, I host on the Clubhouse application with a weekly talk. It's called the Fashion Roundtable. And I co-host that with the legendary fashion critic Jessica Michaud and also Sophia Celeste in Milan. So these are incredible women with whom I have the opportunity to work. And we host these amazing shows, and we have such very strong guests on the program. And when we start to talk about these particular issues, and that is one of the issues that did come up about what will fashion look like after COVID has finally ended or once we've gone back to our lives. It's interesting that we can talk about that from an aesthetic point of view, or we can talk about it from a socio-anthropological point of view. I'm well equipped to speak on both of those as I'm a professor of sociology at the Sorbonne. But from the street side, I personally, we had the Me Too movement. I can't talk about one without the other, but I'll try to do it very quickly. We had the Me Too movement. We had Black Lives Matter, right? And so the thing is, we had a world in which everyone was confined at the same time, seeing the same images being played from the United States to France to China to Russia, right? And there's something in the atmosphere. We are at a convergence of We're at a particular convergence in the history of mankind and in modern civilization, and it's frightening for a lot of people. It's not frightening to me. I think it's very exciting because we are living history. So to more directly respond to that question, when it did come up, we were talking about fashion photography and the portrayal of sex, particularly in a post Me Too fashion world. I felt that, yes, people will be more careful, but the one thing our industry understands is this: sex sells. If you go to my Instagram account, you will see that I have been making quite a lot of posts, and I think that the photographic work will go back to the very exciting, sexually intense things that we saw portrayed in the campaigns for like Dolce & Gabbana, Gucci, the Tom Ford ads that he did, and I remember Tom Ford, he actually starred in one of his own campaigns. We saw this at Roberto Cavalli. We saw this everywhere. And right now, I don't think there's a single person out there in the world who does not want to, I think there's a single woman in the world who doesn't want to put on her favorite little black dress or her favorite little red number, her highest stilettos, and just go out and be seen. Go out and feel alive. And that is what we will be seeing returning to fashion. Yes, we will be more careful about the way we comport ourselves in the industry, but once this is over, we'll take that with us, but we will see this sexual energy coming back. We will see music becoming more popular. We'll see electronic music. We're going to see club and dance music. That is going to be also reflected in the style of dressing that people have. And people want to go out and live. People are ready to take these vaccinations so that we can get back to the way things were, but it's going to be so high level, so intense, that it will definitely recall us of the early 1990s.
I am so excited to hear that. I cannot wait.
Yay.
So
And
Diann
you are
already knows this, but I'm getting my face done on Monday. I've been waiting since July. Haven't had any fillers. I cannot wait. I'm putting on my heels. I had my 2 vaccinations. So yes, I think that sex sells and people want to get out there. So I'm glad to hear you say that.
absolutely. And I've had my vaccinations, just so you know. I'm
I
so
want to
excited.
get mine. I want to get mine so badly, but I'm not in the age category here in France because France, Europe's rollout of the vaccinations have not been as ramped up as in the United States after Joe Biden and the adults went back to the room and took
Right.
over management of this terrible pandemic. Um, and so I don't know when I'll be able to get mine, but I know that I am going to take it as quickly as possible. I had an opportunity 2 weeks ago to take one, but when I learned that it was AstraZeneca, I had to say no because I personally don't feel comfortable with that particular vaccination. Because first there was the rumors of, okay, well, it causes clots. And then it was suspended in Europe and certain countries. And then they said, no, it doesn't cause the clots. They put it back and they said, okay, you can give it. And then they said, okay, well, AstraZeneca, they kind of like
Back and forth. Right.
cherry pick the information that they put into the releases. And then we find out that they lied about an agreement that they had for distribution in the United Kingdom. So to me, that does not build public confidence.
Right.
Even if it is safe, at this point, I think that they've just really made such a huge clusterfuck of the public awareness around their product, and I don't have the confidence that I need to have going into a doctor's office to allow them to give me something like that when I'm just not comfortable. And this is something that did not have to happen.
Right. No, I agree, and not to get all hung up on that, but
Right.
hopefully people understand it's so important. So I think we should just have a Zoom party with us and our friends, and we all get dressed up.
Yes.
And that way, you have your shot, you don't have your shot, you're on your own room, you don't have to have a mask, and let's get dressed up, because there is nothing that makes you feel better. Whether you're going to school to be dressed, I always like to tell my students, you need to dress to learn. When you dress well, you think well. If you dress messy, you think messy. There's something about that to me. And if you're going out just to go shopping, yes, there will be times that I'm like in my jeans and I hope nobody sees me. But I love my jeans. So it's like my jeans, my white top and whatever. I mean, it's just something about looking good. But to go out dancing or go out to a nice dinner, you're absolutely right. I mean, just like, go girl.
Exactly. So many people fell to depression throughout this pandemic, and it was really bad for so many people. And I have to tell people, the first 2 or 3 days, first of all, what you guys call a lockdown and confinement in the United States is a complete joke by our standards here. And I'll say this here, I know it was difficult for everyone regardless, okay?
Right.
But here, when we went into it, we were literally tossed into confinement 23 hours a day. We were only allowed to go outside for 1 hour a day for 2 months and a couple of days over that. And yes, so it was quite severe. The first 2 or 3 days were the hardest for me. And in my building, I was pretty much, alone. Everyone abandoned the building and they went to their country homes. They went to their homes in Saint-Tropez, or some of them, they just left and went to other countries. And so many people just felt so badly. So I just got to the point and I just started telling people, hey, listen, you know what? In order for you to feel a bit more like your old self, I tell you what, ladies, just do this. Ladies, do your hair, do your makeup, put on your favorite dress in your highest stilettos again, put on some music, put on David Bowie's Let's Dance, and just have a private dance party. You deserve this.
That's great. I love that. Yesterday, when I did my shows, I wore a ball gown. Nobody knew it, but I knew it. You know what I mean? And I just felt like it's so important. One thing I'm wondering is when we look at the fashion industry, I don't know where it's going to go or how it's going to evolve, but for people out there who want to get into the fashion industry, maybe they want to be a critic, or maybe they want to work for one of these big fashion houses. What does that process look like?
Well, of course, there is some training, and thank you for asking that question, because I also am the lead lobbyist at this program. It's called the European Consortium for Emerging Fashion. And through my years of traveling to many different countries, I realized that the playing field is very uneven for a lot of people in Central and Eastern Europe. And so what I wanted to do is I created this consortium with partners from 16 different European countries. I go to Brussels and I have rounds of lobbying with the heads of the European Commission, and we lobby for funding to be able to support the developments of these fashion weeks. And what they need is the same thing what anyone needs, right? You need to have a proper fashion education. You need to understand fabrics. You need to be willing to innovate and learn now more than ever about sustainability. But we expect so much more of designers. And whenever I see people say, "Oh, I'm a designer," I'm like, "Well, what do you do?" "Oh, I sell printed T-shirts." I'm like, "That's not really designing." I mean, I'm not hating. I mean, if you're making money, I'm super happy for you, right? But what I'm saying is that's not designing to me. And I tell them, you have to know about the great movements in fashion. You have to know about Madame Vionnet, Madame Gray, Madame Nina Ricci, Madame Chanel, Madame Jean Lauvin. You even try to learn about Frederic Worth, the father of haute couture. And we had these conversations about like the transmission of savoir-faire and knowledge in a sustainable way. And I tell people, if you look at, if you study um, biomimetics, which is how we use technology to imitate natural phenomena in nature, if you apply that to the fashion industry, I'll give you an example of a leaf. A leaf always starts out from one vein, then the leaf develops itself, and then from the single center vein that holds the leaf to a tree limb, right, there it branches off into two. Those two branch off into two others. Those two others, they continually branch out, right? And it creates the perfect irrigation system for a leaf. Now, when we take that and we apply it to the fashion industry, I take you back to Monsieur Christian Dior, who of course created the new look. Who worked for Christian Dior? We had Yves Saint Laurent, and we had Pierre Cardin. Pierre Cardin created ready-to-wear. He is the father of ready-to-wear. He really industrialized the fashion industry. But then who went on to work for Pierre Cardin? Pierre Cardin learned from Christian Dior, who worked for Pierre Cardin. You had Jean-Paul Gaultier, my friend, and then after Jean-Paul Gaultier, you had Alexandre Vautier and Julien Fournier, and they all had the haute couture label. So many of the techniques, many of the things that they have learned and they are presenting in haute couture today, this has been transmitted down for nearly a century from Monsieur Christian Dior. So I tell these designers that you've got to do the homework. You've got to study. It is not easy. Nothing is going to be easy for you. You've got to be prepared to do the hard work, and that means you've got to study the history. I think that before designers go out and go into their own businesses, I think that it would be wise of them to go and to try to do internships in 2 or 3 departments at an established fashion house if they have that opportunity. One thing is they should learn to work in the design department. When you're in the design department, make friends with the people in the marketing and communications department. Ask them about their work. Ask them, how do you do this? What is the process of inviting journalists? What do you do in order to attract the journalists to you? And exactly when you do attract them, what are you telling them? So they've got to learn about storytelling. Storytelling is so vital in today's industry. And I have lectured all around Europe on these topics. And last summer, I just lectured in Moscow, fashion post-COVID, right? And the themes are all the same. The information is the same, just repackaged in different ways that people have to be willing to do a little bit more. They've got to make themselves more knowledgeable. They've got to master today social media. They've got to learn how to speak. They've got to learn how to promote themselves. And part of that thing is like what they tell even doctors and they tell attorneys. You've got to have proper grammatical skills as well. So just things like that. You must always consistently work on yourself to improve yourself in every way that you can, because it's not just putting out clothes anymore. It is impossible to work in that manner these days and be a success.
Oh my goodness, so many wonderful tips that you just gave. I hope people appreciate that you just handed them the red carpet of what they need to do. Thank you for that.
And I loved your analogy with the leaf. I love gardening, so I was just like right with you. And I like to film, even watching the flowers open up and then just stitch the pictures together because it's so magical. And fashion is magic. And so it was great, that analogy that you made.
Thank you.
Really
Well, it's really true. And everything is interconnected, and I really do my best to help as many people as I possibly can in any way that I can. And so I go out and I try to help as many of the students as I can, because I have to tell them this is what you have to do. And in the program that we're doing with the European Commission through the European Consortium for Emerging Fashion, of which I am the leader, what we also do is we also we understand the fact that not everyone went to a fashion school, right? So you have people who learn traditionally, like men learn tailoring from their grandfather, and you have women seamstresses and embroiderers who learn the techniques, right, from someone else who taught them in a small atelier. And so if they're going to continue to do well today and to get their products out across the world and find new clients, we've also got to do the work to help them access social media. We've got to explain social media to them, and we've got to put them on the path to it. That creates sustainability. That type of sustainability creates economic opportunity, and that type of economic opportunity reduces inequalities in society.
Absolutely. So if I had the opportunity to be in Uganda a couple of times and doing some humanitarian work, and Queen Sylvia in Buganda is incredible. And one of the things that I think you might enjoy knowing about, but you might already, is how she works really hard to help people have sustainability in their life. And one of the things in Uganda, in Buganda itself, is material. And I absolutely love material. I like to touch it, feel it. And there's just something so interesting about touching material.
It's an intimate experience.
Yeah,
it is. You know, I can't go through a store and not just feel what it feels like, you know, or how did they do that? But anyway, they make really great different types of material. And I always encourage people to order, if they can, from them, because it's exciting and it's different, and the patterns and how they mix the colors. And so I think that's important too, when you were saying reach out and develop sustainability. I just wanted to throw that out there.
It's really important. Those are the keys to the future for any designer.
So I have a question for you, Marcellous. We're at the top of the hour, and I've got another question I'd like to ask you. Can you hang around for a little while?
I will be very happy to hang around. Thank you.
Okay, perfect. Diann?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm going to take us to break, but here's my commercial I'm going to take us to a commercial break. Here's my question. So, given the fact that over time there are so many celebrities who have started their own fashion line, and they're in Target, they're in Walmart, they're all these places, and the fact that people are more relaxed, people like me who love haute couture and my favorite shoes, Louboutins, I cannot wait to put them back on. But what is the future for haute couture if you're not in an income bracket where you can afford it? So I know for years, many of my friends, like whether you could afford it or not, you're going to have those shoes, whatever it takes. You're getting the bag, you're getting the shoes. So I'd like you to just share with us when we come back, what are your thoughts on the haute couture industry overall?
Very good.
Okay. Thank you so much. We will be right back.
When all my broken sneakers started to pile up in the wardrobe, I realized that we have a problem. Sneakers are made from plastics, and plastic is not mendable. My name is Philip, and I'm one of the founders of Our Choice Fashion. How many times did this happen to you? How can eco sneakers save the world when they break after only a few months and we have to buy pair after pair that breaks? We are here to give you the solution, a choice for truly sustainable fashion in the world's first circular sneakers. On average, we all buy 3 pairs of sneakers each and every year. This adds up to 25 billion sneakers per year, of which most end up in landfills. This adds up to 350 million tons of CO2 emissions, the same amount as for the country of Italy or the state of California. So we started to develop a product that would have all the old-fashioned qualities. It is mendable, it has a classic design, and it has a natural comfort. Because we chose the best designer there is, Mother Nature. The sneakers get more and more comfortable the more you wear them. Made from vegetable tan leather and natural latex from the rubber tree, the sneakers are both sustainable and comfortable. These sneakers are made from pure raw materials that are both fully biodegradable and fully recyclable. The best thing here really is that when your sneakers need an upgrade, you just send them right back to us using the same bag that you got them delivered in. We then resole your sneakers, put on a fresh pair of laces, and give them a nice new polish. This means that you can wear your sneakers for many years to come. Our sneakers are more than sneakers. They are a circular function, and we developed a smart pull for you to step into your sneakers without stepping down the heel. This means that you get a truly sustainable grip. We've got a fully circular business model, and that's why we'll only produce sneakers on your demand. Book your product now and get that sustainable grip at a discount. We've been on this amazing journey for 2 years, and now we're inviting you to also make a choice for truly sustainable fashion. Try the world's first circular sneakers, 100% plastic free, and I can promise you that our choice will be your companion for many years to come.
You're listening to Business Talk Radio, where we take business to the next level.
Welcome back. We are truly honored to have Marcellous L. Jones with us today. Right, Diann? He is just
absolutely
speechless. And thank you for staying around for extra time to talk with us. I also want to say thank you to Philip Westerland. That was his clip, Our Choice Fashion, and I met him on Clubhouse. So if you're on Clubhouse, check him out. Oh, I'm hearing feedback.
Oh, that's me.
Okay. No worries. So let's go back to the question that I asked. There's so many designers who are coming up with off the rack, like Saks, for example, off Saks, Neiman's, they all have like different levels. And we have people who have vintage stores. We have people who have consignment shops. What is the future for haute couture overall, in your opinion?
The future of haute couture is brilliant. It had gone through a phase like in the late 90s where there were only, some people said 4, some people said 500 women in the world who could afford to buy it, but it doesn't mean that they were actually buying it. And you had, here in Paris at that time, of course, you had, in 1998, Chanel, Givenchy, Christian Dior, Carven, you had Lanvin had recently stopped showing haute couture by that time, but you also had other houses such as Audemars, Versace, Christophe Rouxel, Le Cornet Aymon. Most of those people have disappeared, and there was the legendary house of Torrente. Madame Torrente is the sister of the late Ted Lapidus. And so the thing is, people became so consumed with the instant glamour that could be provided by the catwalks, because let's face it, why wait all of that time? Why go through all of those fittings? Why go through all of this and that in order to look good, when you can just go to Gucci, when you can just go to a boutique, because they started selling what you found on the catwalks of Milan, you saw it in the boutiques in New York, whereas before it was not always the case. So as time went on, like the 2000s, we saw a decline in haute couture. Throughout the 90s, the first part of the 2000s, the first decade of the new century, we saw a decline. But then, towards the beginning of the second decade of this new century, we started to see a rise in haute couture. And why is that? We have to ask ourselves why. Because we saw so much glamour and so many knockoffs heading into other stores such as H&M and Zara and Pull&Bear and all of these other things that are owned by like groups like Inditex, that the clientele, they're like, why would I buy this when someone else is going to wear this and going to wear this with a lot less style and panache than I could wear it? And that literally became the attitudes of women that had that financial ease. And I'll go back and tell you what Jean-Paul Gaultier said to me, right? I remember I was interviewing him after one of my shows, it was after one of his haute couture shows. And Jean-Paul, he said to me, well, Marcellous, I'll tell you this. He said, actually, I make more money on my haute couture than I do all of my ready-to-wear, my women's and men's and my accessories all combined together. I make more money from the haute couture. And I was like, are you serious? He was like, yes. And it was at that point I started to realize that there was this desire for haute couture to return back to its former prestige, where women were willing to come. And I know the women because I would see them sitting opposite me or sitting next to me on the front rows of the shows in Paris. And I realized that I had mixed feelings in the beginning. I thought that it was a bit frivolous to spend such money in ways like that, to spend $80,000 on a dress. I did feel that way. I'll be very honest about it. But then I realized now, because I did not know at that time the full impact of what that $80,000, what that dress did, how many people it actually employed, how much food it put on the tables of families, how many kids were educated, because their parents worked in ateliers and participated in the creation of those garments. I did not realize that at the time. So when I did become aware of that and I educated myself better, I became a lot less judgmental. But in terms of where haute couture is today, as of like 6 years ago, there was like such a huge revival, a new energy. We had Christophe Josse, who created his own house years before that, and he got the haute couture label. We had Stéphane Hollande, a brilliant designer who used to be the lead couturier at Jean-Louis Cherrère. We have Alexandre Vautier, who really brought that sex appeal and that rock energy to haute couture. Julien Fournier with his légèreté, with his movements, and with that delicate softness that is created in everyone's mind as the woman who wears his garments moves softly through space and through time. So we've just seen so much. And then we have, for example, also January a year ago, we have for the very first time an African designer being admitted onto the official calendar of the Chambre Syndicale. And it just says to me that it's opening up people. And this is before, all of this is before Me Too started. This is before Black Lives Matter. This is before George Floyd. There was a new energy at the Chambre Syndicale in Paris. There was new blood, and they decided to become more inclusive. The time had come. So because of all of these things, I know that haute couture has a huge future ahead of it. We have more wealthy women in the world. I'm hoping that more of these women will be exposed to it, because we have a lot of new billionaires, new multi-millionaires, and some of them simply did not grow up in the culture where a woman has to have that patience to go to sit down for all of those fittings and to wait to have the garments delivered. I'm hoping that we will see more of that, because the main thing about it is this: either they can take that money and throw it into champagne and no one benefits from it, or they can take some of that money and they can spend it in haute couture, and they can create jobs and keep savoir-faire continuing in a very sustainable way. I choose the latter.
I think that's really good information that people probably weren't even aware of, how many jobs are, connected with a garment like that. So thank you for sharing that. A question that I have for you is, this is something that I did, and I think I'm just saying it's true, but I'm wondering if other people do this. So I had to have this pair of shoes in Dior, and I went to New York, and they only had 8 pairs, and they were all crystals. So they had straps. I think there were beige straps across the front, and then there were crystals that wrapped all the way around. And so I was told by the woman, she was my personal shopper, I was told that Celine Dion had a pair, and there were 8 pairs left, but there's a 6.5, and I wear an 8. And I said, I don't care, I'll take it. So I shoved my foot into that thing, and I called them my sitting shoes. And so I would be with my parents going somewhere. My dad would be like, what are you doing? And I said, you don't understand. I cannot walk in these shoes. I can only sit in these shoes. So
I admire that. I admire that spirit and that willing to suffer for beauty. I admire that. I wish you would.
Well, the best is I wore them to this party. I went to a black tie party, and I was out dancing, and one of the straps broke, and I was literally crawling around on the floor looking for the Swarovski crystals for the shoes.
Oh,
And
no.
I thought, oh my gosh. But the best news is I ended up selling them on eBay for just a little over half of what I paid for them. And I got to enjoy them. So anyway, my question to you is, do you think that's something that goes on aside from me?
I'm sorry, do I think?
Do you think people will buy clothes that maybe don't fit them because they're so enamored with the designer and they're just...
Oh, definitely. Oh, definitely. Without a doubt. I think we've all gone into department stores, and I don't really shop in department stores anymore. No, because it's like when you do television, it's the payroll of things. The fashion houses, they give
you stuff,
garments that I wear. Because it's I'm providing a service, I'm providing a job, and I'm telling the story, and that's their way of just simply saying thank you, Marcellous. We appreciate the work that you're doing, because we are filming. When we film, I arrive for example, I would leave Paris on Friday afternoon. I would arrive in Milan and go straight to the hotel, and I would begin to work the show. I would rise up the next morning at 6 a.m. or earlier. The chauffeur would pick us up at 8. We would be at the first show, like Corneliani, filming the shows, and we would literally be filming for 15 hours a day. It is a vicious schedule that we have. And when we do a good job, and if a designer says, I'd like for you to have this, I think it's a fantastic thing, because they could take this and give it to Robert De Niro. They could give it to Brad Pitt, but they want to honor me with that. And so I'm very happy about that. But yes, to your question, yes, we do things like that. And, I always tell people, stop when you put on some extra weight, stop going to the stores and saying, okay, I'll just go and buy something new in a size larger. Let that be the hint that you might need to pull away from the desserts. You might want to pull away from the table. You might want to get on the treadmill. And I'm very serious about these
You're
things.
right.
It's a question of general health. And as we age, it's easier for us to put on pounds, particularly with a pandemic. We all had an excuse, but we don't have an excuse for consistently neglecting our health. And with this pandemic going on, neglecting your health could be that one thing that proves fatal to you if you catch COVID. And so I always tell people, do the work, exercise, eat good food, and just try to be more healthy. And losing weight and slimming down is a positive consequence of taking care of your body and treating your body like the temple with which it deserves to be treated as a reverence,
That is beautiful.
Yes.
Absolutely.
I feel like you're speaking to me. And even though I shared with you that I would put on a size 6.5 instead of an 8 shoe, I will not go above. I always wear dresses. I will not go above a size 4. I don't care if the 6 would fit me. I am not wearing it. So I've always been like that.
Slope. It's a slippery slope,
Right.
Now, for
But
people
also
who are
that
watching, I want you to know I do cheat. I have a cryolipolysis machine here. So for me, when I'm putting on extra pounds, if I'm getting like love handles or something like that, you can see that I have put on quite a lot of weight. I could just plug in the machine and I can freeze my fat away.
Wow. Wait, so tell us about this machine. I haven't heard of this.
Oh, you haven't? Oh, this is
No.
great.
No, I need to get it. No, tell.
Hey, listen, so please, people in the audience, do not judge me, right? I am far from perfect, and I'm a bit older than I look. So I have to have women. You have your ways of cheating, right?
Yes,
So,
absolutely.
You please allow me this one indulgence.
Please.
Absolutely. It's a great machine.
So it freezes your fat?
Yes, it does. It frees the fat. I have a massage table at home, and I plug myself into the machine, and I do each session 40. I can't believe I am telling people this.
I just told you I'm getting my whole face done.
I love it because it shows you're human.
What is wrong with me? No, but I've also done other things, to kind of cheat and stuff, in terms of to make myself get into some clothes. They were only making like spandex and like Spanx, not Spandex, Spanx, and compression materials for women when it started and stuff, So I had to do it the old-fashioned way. I remember running to the Versace show the first time I was in Milan and having my camera woman wrap my body in saran wrap so that that I could look fit. I am a type of person that I would yo-yo. In the winter months, I would eat and my weight would fluctuate, and then when it's time to go back to filming, rather than having unhealthy eating habits, because I have had unhealthy eating habits in the past. I have a profound weakness for junk food. And I love like Doritos and I love vanilla ice cream. And whenever I'm in the United States, my friends would pick me up and they're like, okay, so what would you like to have tonight? And then I would tell them, don't stop this car until you get me to a Taco Bell.
What a commercial for them.
No, but and it's like we all have our guilty pleasures, our weaknesses. I mean, oh my God, I used to have friends before they opened up Burger King here. I used to literally have friends like flying over, going to the airport Burger King, getting Whoppers and flying them over to Paris for me. I literally used to have friends doing that. I mean, I was just awful.
That's
I wanted to. Does the saran wrap work?
Yeah, the saran wrap, it does. It just creates like more of a heat type of thing and stuff. A lot of athletes do that. But the thing for me is, it's like when I needed to squeeze into like certain clothes, or like I realized some of my suits were tight on me, then I would use the saran wrap. I mean, I also style. I also do private styling and stuff. I don't really advertise it, but I do some styling. I used to be a stylist before I did the TV show, and I do work with some celebrities and exceptionally talented businesswomen who are leaders in their fields, who need to have who need to be reimagined, and they're not wanting to use clothes that they can get from Saks Fifth Avenue or Bergdorf Goodman. They want exceptional things, and because I'm here in Europe, I bring them the exceptional things. And we had there's an artist, he won a World Music Award, and I styled him for that. I'd actually forgotten that I was the one who styled him for that some years ago, but I was in Atlanta 2 years ago, and I called him up and said, I'm coming to Atlanta to do some styling for a client, and would you like us to work together? He said yes. So what I did was I had these amazing clothes. I did a little research from the 1940s, and I wanted to have that Parisian dandy look by revisiting the 1940s, but then also taking some pieces that came back from like French military uniforms from the 18th century. So I put all of those things together. I did a comprehensive study on him and looked at what had been done before and said, this is what I want to do with you now. And we did that, but there was this one look the night before that he absolutely had to have. It was the best look, and it was too tight. He was like, oh my God, I can't believe it. I love this so much. I can't get into it. And I said, don't worry. I said, we'll use this tomorrow. We can't, because it doesn't fit. I said, we will use it tomorrow. I did not have the possibility of getting him to a session to do cavitation. cavitation will reduce your body and compact it, and it takes centimeters, it takes inches off of the body in about 1 hour, 1.5 hours. You can literally remove like 13 to 21 inches off of a body in like 2.5 hours with this, right?
Wait, is this the machine? Is this the machine you have, or this is something else?
Well, I have that too.
We're coming over.
But we didn't have that right in our disposition. So what we did was this: I just did it the old-fashioned way. I went and I got this industrial like roll of like saran wrap, and the next day he was in that outfit and he looked absolutely amazing, and no one could tell the difference. No one knew. And when you're an old stylist, you know these old tricks, because sometimes, like the Spanx, they just don't do it in some ways, because the Spanx won't allow you to get into like little pockets and stuff, and really concentrate. So if you got to be able to use these old school techniques, that's sustainable knowledge that's been passed down throughout the decades.
The tricks of the trade.
That's fantastic. I'm going to look into these machines and saran wrap. And
I can't believe I've outed myself about my secrets about how I cheat.
No, I think that's great.
I love that, but I want to go back to something you talked about, if we have enough time, Dr. Jacalyn.
Yes, we've got about 9 minutes.
Okay, so I loved it when you said when the person puts on the couture, how they feel. And I just want to say that for the audience listening, if you've never purchased a couture, to save up for it, because it's phenomenal. And would you agree? I mean, I felt like the first time that I was like getting fitted, but then when it was all finished, it was just magical, because I always thought when I purchased different things that, it looks really great, but when it is designed for your body, it's mind blowing. Could you address that? Because
there is a special, when you're talking couture and haute couture, there is a special relationship, because the designers, they have to know who the client is. The client goes to the shows, they see, I want this dress, I want that dress, and a woman is guaranteed to walk away as the only person in the world with that particular garment. Now, can the designer do it? And how does that happen? Because the designer will only produce that particular dress so many times. But a woman is guaranteed to be the only one in the world with it, because they do variations of that dress in terms of fabric, in terms of ornamentations of that particular dress, in terms of colors. So if they do it in this color and in this fabric, and they won't do it for anyone else. It's only you. And so when you go in and you put in all of that work in terms of the fittings, when you go in and you have to have several fittings. They have to make a mock of the dress. And sometimes, depending on the relationship, if you're a dedicated client of that particular couturier or couture house, what they would do is they would have a mannequin made from your body dimensions. So that way, you don't have to go in for so many fittings. They literally make it on the mannequin, which has your exact body dimensions. Of course, there is a final fitting, because from the time the mannequin is a prototype of your body, and then let's imagine that you lose a little weight, or you put on a little weight and stuff, so they're the final touches. And because of that, it fits your body like a glove. It fits you like a second skin. And this is such an extraordinary experience, because when you are going into these haute couture salons, it really is like 5-star plus treatment that you can only get in the haute couture salons of Paris, or in Rome at the Alta Moda, or in Dubai. One of my favorite designers, and I'm going to tell you, if you are a fan of draping, I know that people will have their opinions about this. People consider Emmanuel Ungaro to be the greatest draper of all time. I say no, he was the greatest draper of the 20th century, because there's a young man, his name is Rami Al-Ali. He is Saudi, he is based in Dubai, and to me, he is the most gifted draper that this world has ever known.
Wow. Say his name again.
Rami Al-Ali. I will write it for you.
You have a
little chat. My friends in Dubai.
Okay.
Al-Ali. is the most talented of all drapers in the business.
Question I have for people watching or listening who might be thinking this. So you have this beautiful item that's designed for you. Can you wear it more than once?
In the old days, you could, because like if you wore it to a party in New York, and then you wore it to a party in Los Angeles or Beverly Hills, and then you may have been able to wear it in Europe, to another soiree or two, but in different countries, never in the same city. But because of social media, magazine publications, but then now that made it more difficult, particularly these were like red carpet pieces. But if it was like les tailleurs, the suits, right? Because women like that, it's society women and stuff, like you ladies, you lunch and you have to have different garments, right? So those are events that are less covered by the press. You don't have the paparazzi nosing around trying to take pictures of you. So in that particular case, in terms of the couture like that, yes, for daywear, it is very much possible. But you don't want to wear the same outfit to a luncheon or a cocktail when there would be ladies present who have seen you in that before, because it cheapens the couture for them.
Makes sense. Makes sense. Diann, I don't know if you have a question. I have just one more question.
No, go ahead.
We could keep you here all day.
All day.
It's kind of a personal question for me as a show host. So I film Wednesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays, and now we have 11 shows. We had one show, then two shows, and I would change in between shows. But now, like today, I have 4 shows. I'll be wearing this dress for the 4 shows, and I'm thinking maybe I should be changing for every show. What are your thoughts on that?
I think that you should change at least once.
Okay.
It depends on also the days when the shows will be broadcast on the channels. What is the audience of those shows? If you notice that when people are out promoting movies and stuff, like if they go to Good Morning America and then to the Today Show, they go to The View, go to The Talk. Very oftentimes you will see the celebrities changing their clothes, as they go from show to show to show. And of course, I'll shout out to Wendy Williams as well, because, she gets to a lot of the top guests as well. So they will change their garments, because they want to also give that respect to the host and that platform, right? To say, this is me. I'm not just being recycled over from the Today Show or Wendy Williams, and I want to do something special for you. And when they do that, it looks as if they're more busy than if they were to show up in the same outfit for several tapings on the same day. So I would change... I would like throw a scarf on, or I would like pull my hair back or something like that, just to make it look just a little different, right?
I like it. That's good advice. I knew you were going to say that. Thank you. I definitely will do that. Diann, I'm going to leave you with the final question.
Oh my goodness. I hope you'll come back.
Yeah.
I will.
Yes.
I'll come up with friends.
Yeah, I'd love to have you back regularly. That would be really interesting. So before we go, as I mentioned, we are streaming your information, but for people who are not watching, they're listening. So they can find you on Clubhouse under Fashion Insider. Mm-hmm. Now, does it say Professor? What is it?
It says in that app, it was like an accident, because I didn't know that Clubhouse. I was trying to figure out how it would look on the screen, and then I got blocked and I couldn't change it anymore. So it's stuck Fashion Insider in parentheses, Professor Marcellous Jones.
Okay, wonderful. And you're on Clubhouse. You have rooms there. How often and when? Just so people can know.
I have one program because I have created one platform, one room called Fashion Insider. All right. So I will be hosting shows there. Tomorrow, I'm absolutely hosting my very first one, and I'm going to be hosting with doctors who are going to be able to speak to people in the fashion industry about the need for us to get vaccinated, because we travel so much. And I know that some of my brethren and some of my sisters in the fashion industry are a little reluctant to take the COVID vaccination. They feel that, it came about too soon, that in 1 year is not possible. Well, that's true for the most part. I know, unlike them, that this is not 2020 was not the first time that this world had seen the advance of COVID. I know that COVID actually first emerged in 2002. We did not know about it because it was what we considered to be a small problem in Asia. It was in 2003 when we saw SARS come around, right? We heard about that because it became a regional problem and it affected the stock markets. And so in 2003 when we had SARS, No one talked about COVID anymore. But people started working on vaccines back then, and what they don't know is that, like the SARS and the COVID, genetically speaking, they're about 80% identical. And so there's been research out there. So I'm hosting tomorrow in Fashion Insider for the very first time on Clubhouse under my own name. This with these doctors, because I want the people in my industry, in the fashion, in the beauty, in the adjacent industries, to get that education that they need. It cannot always be about glamour. We've got to talk about wellness of mind, wellness of body, wellness of spirit. So that's what I will be doing. On Monday nights, I co-host with Sofia Celeste from Vogue Italia, from Women's Wear Daily, the Wall Street Journal, and Jessica Michaud, legendary fashion critic. We co-host with her the roundtable, the fashion roundtable, right? That's every Monday at 8 p.m. Paris time, which is 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time in the United States on the East Coast. And I also do another one called Roundtable Talk Show, in which I talk about politics and society, things that are away from fashion, because, as you know, I am a professor of sociology. I talk about military defense system and stuff like that. So I can't do it under the fashion umbrella.
I am just speechless. I think you are the most interesting guest we've ever had. By the way, we do have comments. Greetings from Germany from Y Shatter. And a follow-up, which is, will you also talk about stopping the use of sweatshops in the fashion industry and condemning publicly those who do that?
That's another obese.
That's huge.
Oh, that's another topic. That is a great question.
Huge.
That's a great question.
Thank you for that question. First of all, I took off my glasses, so I have to get close to the screen to be able to read. These are things that we do talk about. The other night on Tuesday, we were talking on Monday past in the roundtable, in the fashion roundtable talk. We were talking about that, and we had someone who popped up, and she lives in London, but she's African and lives in London, and she brought up this aspect about these type of questions about like people working in workshops. The night before last, I was brought into a room in which we were talking with a young girl from South America who absolutely worked in a sweatshop. And the thing is, I invest, I have diversified my income streams. And I will say this, I do not mind making less money if it means lower profits. If I have lower profits from making sure that we do what we're supposed to do, that we are not exploiting people. I believe that people who do an honest day's work should be paid an honest day's wage for that work. I don't believe in the exploitation of human misery or the human situation. I think it is immoral. I think it is wrong, and it's something I want no part of. So are we calling out companies? Yes, we are. I'm working with amazing people from the Caring Group and other people talking about these questions. We are putting that under the umbrella of sustainability. We're putting that under the umbrella of human equity, in which we are putting value on individuals, so that way they can improve their quality of life, they can improve their physical circumstances, and they can bring down the level of inequality. So thank you for that wonderful question. I hope you guys have more.
That was fantastic. Okay, we have some more. Let's see. I'm working on getting a PhD in social work and plan to do humanitarian work in other countries to help organizing against large companies who use the poor children. I want to help create local industries and education systems over time. And follow up, I'm glad you guys do that. And another follow up, if you need help in Germany, you can message me.
Oh,
wow, how
wonderful.
lovely. Thank you.
Can you send me a message on Instagram? I don't know if you have Instagram, but can you message me on Instagram? I will give up my telephone number, but telemarketers.
Yes. Yes.
They are relentless. They call every day.
So here you are on Instagram, Fashion Insider Original.
Yes.
And by the way, I just went to Clubhouse while we were talking, and I just followed you in all your clubs. I was already following you, but I just followed your club. So
I did the same thing at break.
Yeah, that's amazing. Okay, so this person, Y Shatter, does have Instagram and will follow you. That's wonderful. Thank you so much. That's
congrats.
Yeah.
You mentioned you work with, did you call it the Caring Group?
Yes, well, I work with people at the Caring Group. We talk about these sustainable talks. When I say work with them, that means that we have interactions, involvements. So, for example, this past Monday, at the fashion round table. We had Monsieur Michael Butler. He was one of the people who popped in as our special guest. And what happened was we talked about, the topic was, can fashion sustain sustainability? So this is how we open up the conversation. And, there are lots of passions and some people are impatient, but Caring has really been doing the work. Caring, I feel as if Caring they're not perfect. No company is perfect, but Caring is one of the companies that was among the first to start to roll up its sleeves and to start to get its hands dirty. And I always tell people, companies that have a long history and a long production chain, that it is impossible for them to click their fingers and overnight they become sustainable in a way that we want them to be. So the idea in terms of sustainability and in sustainable education, it is an ongoing process where people are constantly adding layers. So we start with, for example, creating a directory of people who are producing sustainable materials, people who are working in ecological ways. We add ways of tracing the origin of materials, right? And then we start integrating piece by piece. Okay, this season a collection is using 100% synthetics, or they're using silks, and they're not so sustainable. So the next season we try to get them to integrate like 10% of sustainable fabrics. But then the next season we try to get also smaller designers to commit to implementing a 10% minimum amount of sustainable fabrics. We try to get people to make sure that visit the factories and to have pop-up surprises and to visits at these factories to make sure that children and child labor is not involved in that. It is a huge process. The London College of Fashion, they are also doing amazing things in this, and they also have a program with Caring. In Central and in Eastern Europe, I always tell people, we cannot look for the luxury sector. Please do not think that Chanel and Hermes and the LVMH group and the Caring group and the Richemont and the Puig group, please do not look to them to solve this problem alone. We as citizens of this world, we have a responsibility. Yes, companies, they should have a social contract with the public, but we as the citizens are the ones we should be relentless. We should be untreatable in the way we demand that they do better. We do better and we tell them we expect you to do better in the terms of inclusion, in terms of diversity, in terms of protection of the environment. And when I say inclusion, for example, in many countries, once you get to a certain age, they put you out to pasture. And I think that's the wrong thing to do. When we created the Serbia Fashion Week in Novi Sad, Serbia, in November 2013, our choreographer was a legendary choreographer from the old days of communism, right? And so we brought her in as the lead choreographer for the fashion shows. And I think it's safe to say that she's, around 70 or maybe older right now, because I rarely ask people their ages. But for me, she had this savoir-faire. She had this presence. Her presence alone commanded respect, right? And so what happened is we had all of these young people coming in, sitting, listening, learning from her. And we put her to work. We gave her another reason to understand that there was value in her that could be exploited at any time and in the most exciting ways in fashion, independently of her age. We also took young people of 17 years of age, 18, 19, and we gave them internships, we gave them training, we gave them purpose. And now these people are branching out, they're creating their own companies. So again, all of these things, this is a circular thing. It's not just about sustainability in terms of fabric. It has to include the human equity part. It has to include more vigilance and being more demanding about child labor being a no-no. It has to include inclusion, diversity. And when I say inclusion and diversity, it cannot be tokenism. Adding one person from this age group or one woman, that is tokenism. That is not inclusion, and it is not the same thing.
Right. I agree with you 100%.
We all have a role. We all have a role to play. And by the way, My Insta is Sin of Stupid. I already am following you on Instagram, but we've got 2 more comments that I think are pretty relevant, even though we're way over time. We're way over time. I mean, fashion could.
I'm on lockdown here in Paris. It's definitely 7 o'clock, so I can't go outside anymore. So.
Let's see. Why Shatter also wrote, I mean, fashion could enable the advancement of education by combining programs that show children the different world cultures as they learn how fashion works and how important it is to communicate and be open to people being different.
I love that.
I love that. There's more. A social contract might be complicated. However, a tax contract that the companies have clear records about their expenses to ensure the proper use of their money, which would only be viewed by trusted and bound by contract personnel. And also, je parle aussi français. So, wow.
Those are great comments. People are really listening to you.
Yes, really great comments. And we should have Why Shatter on the program. So
I want to just a passion everyone, because it's, COVID came along and it just it forced a lot of people to look at the world and society in a very different way. It forced a lot of people to realize, hey, we're being really selfish and stuff. I've been guilty of not being sustainable in the past. I've been guilty of making this mistake. I've been guilty of walking out of a room and leaving the lights on. I've been guilty of turning the faucet on to brush my teeth, leaving the water running while I'm brushing my teeth. I've been guilty of those things myself. I think we all have been guilty of those things. But once we realize, oh my goodness, this is a problem, I shouldn't do this, then it's just those little small things that each one of us can do, small steps towards sustainability. Every little step we take helps the world become a better place, I think.
You're absolutely right. And one of the things I love that you talked about that especially when I was in the classroom and I would share with kiddos, is that older people have a lot to share. And it's not just the young people. And of course, I grew up in the days that you really respected your elders and they had wisdom and you could learn from them. So I would really invite people from different walks of life to come in my classroom and just share their story and let the kids learn how to interview in the classroom. And I did this with all different ages. And so I think they developed an appreciation. So I really love everything that you just said and tying people together and how we can learn from each other.
Thank you very much. Well, I mean, I could literally just go on and on and on and on and on forever, particularly because I can't go outside anymore, right?
Well, we definitely want to have you back. Seriously, I'd love to have you as a regular, is if you're interested. I think that would be tremendous. So I'll circle back with you.
Yeah, please do. If there's anything that I can do to help people and stuff, I do. And I want to, if you might indulge me just a little bit more, I'd like to speak on when we talked about the Me Too movement at my classes at the Sorbonne, right? And
sure.
We live in a world in which people are quite indifferent to the pain and suffering of others. And so we talked about 2 major themes, right, this year. We talked about the Me Too movement and we talked about Black Lives Matter. Now, those were the opening things, and there were so many tears shed in my classes throughout the year. And we started with the Me Too movement because, we had all of this talk about Jeffrey Epstein and Harvey Weinstein and the Bill Cosby, and we talked about all of those things in my classes. And so I did an experiment one day, and on that day, I asked all of the students in my class, and I asked the ladies, how many of you have ever been sexually harassed or worse? The questions were asked, and some of the ladies raised their hand. Of 100 students, 93 are female, right? And I told a personal story of something that happened to me at a doctor's office that should never have happened. At a time when I was sick and I needed the doctor to help me, and this doctor took advantage of that situation. And so I shared my own personal story with what happened with me. And then I asked the question again. So in all, 93 of the 88 of the 93 women in my classes raised their hand to acknowledge that they had been sexually harassed or assaulted in their life. And it was a shock to the guys. The guys, they were like, yeah, this is something that I've heard about. Yeah, I've read about it. We know this happens. But for them to sit into the classroom and to actually see the absolute number of just the people that they see every day who have been affected by this. And I've had this, one student, she left the class, and I knew that this affected her in a different way. And she came to me later, and she said that she was in therapy because she had been raped. And so for me, I try to get people to understand that everything has an origin. If we talk about sexual harassment, if we talk about racism, if we talk about misogyny, all of these things have an origin. And I tell people that we are guilty as well because of the way we raise our boys and our girls. And I asked them questions. I said, of how many of you have ever heard that little girls are supposed to be pretty? Everyone raise your hands. Little girls are supposed to be perfect. Yeah, they raise their hand. Little girls aren't supposed to climb trees. Little girls aren't supposed to play with frogs. Everyone keeps raising their hands. And then I say, how many of you have ever heard that boys are supposed to be rough? Raise their hands. It's okay, boys, it's natural that boys, they get into fights. They raise their hands. How many of you have ever heard that boys don't cry? And everyone raises their hands. And I said, right there is the problem. That is the origin of toxic masculinity right there, because at a very young age, we separate boys from their emotions. And so as they become older, they are incapable of processing and discussing complex emotions. Whereas with little girls, we raise little girls with the knowledge of emotions, and we raise them with this conscious air that this is something that they have to come to terms with. And I also gave them an example, and I said, how many of you have ever heard of like a little boy when he's in school and there's a little girl, he pulls the little girl's hair, and everyone was like, yeah, I've heard this. Or if the little boy, he like punches the girl's shoulder. Everyone's like, yeah, So they laugh, say, yeah, that's kind of cute. And then I say, when we sit and we talk with the little boy, why did you do this? Don't you like her? Why don't you like her? And the little boy says, I do like her. I do like her. And then we say, well, why did you hit her? Why did you pull her hair if you like her? And the little boys say, oh, I don't know, but I do like her. We understand then that little boys are developing their very first crush. We sweep it under the rug and say boys will be boys, right? And that is part of the boys going into adolescence. But right there, we excuse the little boys while we shift the responsibility of having to just deal with that. We shift that responsibility to the little girls. And we set little girls up for failure in the sense that from the time they're little girls, we set them up to grow up with the mentality that boys will be boys, they will do crappy things, and it's your responsibility to excuse it. And we raise the boys in a way so that the young men understand that, yes, I do these things, but because I'm just a boy and I'm like having conflicts of my emotions, this is just what boys do. And I said, well, if you can just add 15 years to that age of when the little boys are doing it, can you imagine a 21-year-old guy pulling a young woman's hair? Can you imagine a 21-year-old guy punching a woman in the shoulder because he likes her? We call that sexual harassment. We call the police. And I caution people, we really have to look at the way we are educating our children. We really have to stop making these traumatic differences in the way we are raising our boys and our girls. And we've got to talk to them, and we've got to put boys in touch with their emotions at an early age in the same way that we do girls, because when we don't do that, it leads to toxic masculinity. And because of this, men having difficulties processing their emotions when they get married and their wives want to talk about problems and the men don't, they oftentimes turn to violence as a way to silence the conversation. That puts women in danger. And another thing is this: men are 4 times as likely to commit suicide and suffer from depression because they have a more difficult time processing and understanding how to deal with those emotions, because we have not given them the keys to doing all of this when they are children. And these are things that we have to look at today.
I agree with you. We're going to keep you. Oh, she's okay.
I'm so passionate about these subjects. So
you took the words out of my mouth. You were very passionate, and as a mom, I'm going to share with you. I agree 100% with you. And then as growing up, I can remember Daryl liked me. I'm in first grade, and I knew he liked me, but I have 5 brothers. I knew he liked me because he punched me, and then I knew we were gonna play together, and we played chase and everything. But I had learned from my brothers, well, if he comes and he goes like that, it means he likes you. And I'm like, oh, Daryl likes me. Let's play chase, right?
Why not just say I like you?
Exactly.
You don't have to get me.
Yeah, exactly. And that's true. So, but I will say that I think it's also a parent's responsibility to help bring out the child to feel comfortable about his feelings. And I know from my dad, he had a hard time. And so I grew up learning, well, your dad has a hard time expressing his feelings, and Mama helped him learn how to share more with us. So as a mom, I really believe I worked hard. You'd have to ask my son if I was successful, but for him to talk and share what he's actually feeling, not stomp off. I don't want to talk about it, right? But because I wanted him to be open up, because I wanted him to grow up to be a responsible human being. So I think everything you're saying is right. So I just wanted to share with your passion.
Thank
go,
you.
go.
Thank you, Diann. Thank you for sharing that.
That's part of mental and psychological sustainability. When we learn to treat people the same, and I tell my students that, sometimes I get lost, sometimes I'm not the most liberal of people that you would think I am, because I work in fashion. I came from a very conservative background in the South in the United States, Thank God I got away from all of that. But I will say this. Even I get lost on certain social issues. Like, for example, like I was in this room and someone said to me the other day, well, can you introduce yourself with your pronouns? I'm like, me, him, he, dude, To me, that's something that's quite silly to me when I hear that. But I know to other people, that is something that is not serious. It's something that is very serious,
Right.
So, but what brings me back to reality, whenever I find myself saying stuff like that, or having these doubts, or having these questions, I always try to bring it back to something more simple. And I say, okay, equal justice, and I say this to my students every week, equal justice is about equal access and equal protection under the law for every citizen in each day, in each situation, every day, and applied universally, no exception. And so if it's, and I'm going to tell you, the next battle in the workforce is going to be the rights of transgendered citizens. That is the next big fight in terms of where we're going to be heading into the workplace. And that's going to be a big part of the conversation and discussion in terms of inclusion and diversity. So I think it's going to be quite interesting to see how we pan those out. Dr. Jacalyn.
Well, you're setting us up for another great interview. We'll have you back.
Right.
I did want to mention that I kind of went out on a limb. I've been sexually harassed many times, and I put it in a new book that I have that's coming out. And I felt a little nervous about doing so, because there's no names or anything in it. But it's, when you think about putting it out to the whole world, it's
it's hard.
So,
and in the fashion industry, there's quite a bit. It's in all industries, but going back to our topic of fashion and how the whole Me Too movement came about, I'm glad it's become a topic, and I appreciate you bringing that to our attention on our show.
I do too. This would have fantastic way to kick off this show. We do have one more comment. We really do have to wrap within 6 minutes and some seconds.
Some other shows to
Yes. May I ask your opinion about trans men taking part in female competition? That could also be another show.
Oh yeah,
that's huge.
Yeah.
save that for another show.
Yeah, we'll save that for. So, Why Shadow, thank you so much for your interaction today on the program. We really appreciate it and hope that you'll spread the word. So, Marcellous, again, for people who are listening, people who are watching, I'm going to run your banner. For people who are listening, the best way to get in touch with you is through social media. And it looks like it's Instagram, Fashion Insider Original, Twitter, Marcellous MLJ, Clubhouse, Fashion Insider, Professor Marcellous L. Jones. That's fantastic.
They will either see me with a hat on Clubhouse. They will either see me with a hat on, or they will see a photo of a little finnick fox. And no, it is not a cat; it is a fox. They're so cute, and that's my. It's just like my obsession. I must have a finnick fox. So, working out with the French government is how is that going to be possible? Because it is an exotic animal. So.
Oh, interesting. Another topic.
Yes,
and
another
where's
topic.
our puppy?
She's here. She's in her bed. Right over here.
Give her a hug for us.
Yes.
Hey, George.
We're so pleased to meet her. Yeah. So please ping me into your rooms anytime you have them. I'd love to
I will. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you. And I'll reach out to you with the link again. We'd love to have you come back on the show as soon as possible. Because you are just phenomenal. Any last words you have for our audience?
Yes, just be happy. You know, I know that a lot of people have dealt with the COVID in different ways, and lots of people have been affected by it adversely. We've all lost people. We've all had people be sick. But I do want to say this to you. What we are going through now, you are not alone. We are all here. We are all in this together. And this is just like fog. It's very difficult for us to see through it, but it will not last forever.
Beautiful.
Yes, beautiful. Thank you so much. Diann, anything you would like to share with our audience?
Just to go out and be grateful your eyes opened and love yourself. And if going out just means to go to another room and enjoy life, just enjoy life wherever you are.
Yeah, put on a suit, put on a ball gown, but make sure you have cellophane wrapped around you before you put it on.
Definitely.
Yeah.
No, not cellophane, biodegradable cellophane.
Oh, biodegradable.
Oh, biodegradable.
And by the way, I'll just share this. So during the pandemic, I purchased a trampoline. And that trampoline, I feel, has changed my life. I have my spinning bike and I've got all my weights and everything. But that trampoline, like my skin was starting to go down and now it's come back up. So you can go onto Amazon and get one $50-some. I already broke through the first one, which I'm really
a great investment, right?
It's a great investment.
And it took you back to childhood and you felt like a kid again.
So much. It's on the other side of this green screen, and I'll put on Netflix, and that's my time to, binge for an hour. And I have my Apple Watch on. I burn up just about 600 calories in that hour, as opposed to walking 7 miles and burning up 300 and some calories. So I'm just saying. Last thing I just want to mention for folks who are interested in our other shows. So I'm going to be leaving to go to a lunch club meeting, which Lunch Club and Clubhouse are amazing. If you're sitting at home, go on Lunch Club. I'm not a paid sponsor. Go on Clubhouse and make incredible relationships. So our shows for today, 3:30, we have Pet Psychic Amina, and her guest is Sunil Bhaskaran. And I'm looking forward to meeting him. 5 o'clock, our show is Stories of Hope, Inspiration, and Overcoming Adversity. And we have cancer advocate Jan White joining us from Jan Says Onward. And then at 6 o'clock, we have the Variety Show with co-host Lori Mendelson, who's all over Clubhouse as well. But she can't make it today. So we have a guest host, Alcini, and we are interviewing Kent Swampy Glade. And he's an environmental activist, and he's all over social media, especially Clubhouse. Swampy. So thank you so much for being here today. I'll see you tomorrow on Clubhouse, and Diann, I'll catch up with you later.
Sounds great. Everyone have a great day.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house.
And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned. This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.